I would just like to say again what a pleasure and an honor it is to be with you all here, with these distinguished scholars. And I would like to thank once again our friends Turkad, especially Jamal Nur Sargut, for their remarkable hospitality and kindness. One of the most memorable encounters in the history of Sufism is surely the first meeting of Shams-i Tabrizi and Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. Although there are numerous versions of the story of this encounter, probably the most important account is the one that Shams himself recorded in his discourses or maqalat, where he says that he spoke as follows to Rumi. The first thing I spoke about with him was this: how is it that Bayazid did not need to follow the example of the Prophet and did not say, "Glory be to thee," or "We worship thee"? And Rumi completely understood the full implications of the problem and where it came from and where it was leading to. It made him inebriated, intoxicated on account of his purity of spirit, for his spirit was pure and cleansed, and it shone within him. I realized the sweetness of this question from his intoxication, though I had previously been unaware of its sweetness. Franklin Lewis, who has analyzed this passage at length in his excellent book on Rumi, has provided a persuasive interpretation of the way that both Shams and Rumi followed the Prophet, unlike Bayazid Bistami. Shams, according to Lewis, returns again to this question of following the Prophet, and the case of Bayazid apparently provided the touchstone by which Shams could gauge the inner orientation of others and test whether a fancy for mystical speculation or indulgence in antinomian behavior outweighed a person's love and respect for the spiritual attainment of the Prophet. And let me stop and just observe that antinomian means the idea that you are beyond the law and you do not have to follow the commandments of the law or the Sharia. Lewis is certainly correct in pointing to the central importance of the concept of following the Prophet, mutaba'at, in the mystical thought of Shams-i Tabrizi. Omid Safi has discussed the likelihood that Shams even criticized Muhyiddin ibn Arabi for insufficiently demonstrating this quality. Yet I must confess that it has always seemed to me there was something more to say about this episode. Perhaps it's the occurrence of the word intoxication or drunkenness, sukr, which Shams uses twice to describe the reaction of Rumi to the example of Bayazid. And let me make a remark outside of the paper in response to a question from our friend, Professor Moinuddin. It is interesting that Maulana in the Diwan-i-Shams and in the Masnavi has a very positive portrayal of Bayazid Bistami and his remarkable sayings. And I think the difference is that the maqalat of Shams is a series of notes about conversations that took place with individuals that we unfortunately don't know exactly who was present. And it was a different kind of audience than Rumi had in his poetry, where, as in the case of Fariduddin Attar and his poetry, examples of Bayazid and Hallaj formed a marvelous example for the understanding of fana, the states of annihilation and other important topics. So it's a different kind of audience, a different kind of literature, a different kind of exposition. Because Maulana and Shams are not like jurists, qazis, who give fatwas about people. They speak according to the audience. The appearance of this kind of intoxication suggests there is some excess. There is some excess or overplus of meaning that does not quite fit into the conventional notion of devotion to the example of the Prophet. Despite the fact that Shams criticizes Bayazid on a number of occasions, one retains a lingering suspicion that there was something about the boldness of Bayazid's ecstatic claims and the audacity of his statements that called forth a response of equal audacity from Shams-i Tabrizi himself. Lewis is quite aware that most Sufis would have been able to explain the sayings of Bayazid as ecstatic sayings or shathiyat, which should not necessarily be taken at face value or condemned as blasphemous insults against God or the Prophet. He adds that other Sufi scholars were critical of the ecstatic expressions of Bayazid and Hallaj, which they explained away as the products of intoxication that could be safely disregarded. Yet, as previously mentioned, it's striking that Shams described Rumi's reaction to this question as also being a kind of intoxication or sukr. Does that mean Rumi's reaction was also invalid? Or was he responding to a deeper meaning in Bayazid's expressions? These questions require further exploration.